tell us about your process of like, so now we basically hand this script to you that's supposed to be a movie, and now you're going to turn that into a graphic novel. Like,
yeah, it was pretty naive. But
so are all of us.
Yeah, I just thought what we'll do is I'll just imagine this is a comic script, which isn't that different. But the main problem was with the comic script, you've got the pages broken down. So if you get a 6-page script, you can see right away it's 6 pages. This is what happens on the 6 pages. Whereas a film script is an elastic thing. It could be, you don't know how long it is in terms of pictures. So one thing I could have done, which I thought would have been a cop-out, would have been not a cop-out, but it would have been what they would have done if you'd given it to like a company. If a film had been made and the film was going to be made into a comic strip, this always happens. They cut out about 60% of it, and you get a much smaller thing. But I thought it wouldn't be cool to do that because I wanted to get the flow of a movie into the pages. So I thought, I'm just going to stick with the script, and I'm going to draw all the pages as I'm reading the script, and then count the pages and see how many that is. And by an astonishing, I don't know if it was just luck or what, but it just worked out to be just right. You know, it just somehow, it was long, but it was right.
Yeah.
Because every panel, every page carried the story, and you could feel it in a flow. You know, the images moved in a flow. It meant more images it meant more images not per page, but it meant a longer comic. But it also meant that you got this flow like a film, which is just the best, because a lot of people don't know how to really read comic books. A lot of people come with comic books, don't know how to read them. They've never read them before. They're too disjointed. They don't know how to connect these images. But I had less of a problem because my images are closer together in time. So you're actually seeing the whole thing flow out. So I counted it. It's like, what, 162 pages? No, 262 pages.
Yeah.
262 pages.
Sounds more like it.
Yeah.
Mad length of comic book, but you know, it doesn't matter. It flowed well, and I read it again, and then I guess I sent it to you guys, and you must have read it and liked it. And so then I just started drawing it, but of course that takes a lot longer, because then I had the idea that if I do this beautifully, no one will resist publishing it, and it didn't happen. So I just kept drawing. If you set a high bar, you got to keep to that bar, because you can't dip. I mean, I could have done it faster, but then there would have been a dip in quality, or a different style, depending on your argument over whether, you know, quality and style. But it would have dipped. It would have been an obvious dip. So I tried to maintain the same level. And so I guess when we got together with Clover, that was me completed book 1 or volume. I completed half the volume, half the book. But then I guess I started having this idea that maybe that could be 1 volume, and then the second volume would be the other half, because I was right at the halfway point.
Yeah.
So then they were saying, well, what we'll do is we'll publish that as a volume 1, and then when you get the next one done, that'll be volume 2, and then we'll do a compilation. And so that's how that happened. But what was I going to say there? Yeah, then the COVID kicked in. I mean, maybe I'm accelerating ahead, but COVID kicked in, and Clover went into, everybody stopped selling. Comic book stores shut down. Clover, stopped producing stuff because there was nowhere to send it, because nobody was taking anything. Everything was closed. But at the same time, it gave me an opportunity to, rattle on with part 2, and it kind of extended the time I had to do it, which was just as well, because I'm now thinking, well, volume 1 looks really good. How do I top it? Because I need people to come back. It has to be at that level or higher. It can't go below. Yeah. And so, I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff, or crazy stuff. 1 page took 3 weeks.
Whoa.
So that one page, no more than that. But yeah, so I'm pleased with 2. I think volume 2 takes it out of the park. I think volume 1 does, but I think volume 2 is an adequate, perfect successor to volume 1. So I'm really happy. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, for the record, we haven't even seen volume 2.
I know.
We are very eager. So
yeah, It's very,
Under lock and key.
yeah, totally. It's been completely under lock and key. It doesn't deviate much at all. There's a couple of deviations toward the end, but I think you'll be into that.
Oh, sure.
But we'll see. You know, I think you'll like it. But yeah, it's just more the same, trying to stick as close to the script as possible, and then open up, like I keep saying, open up the panels to other references and things coming in. So if I have an idea, I see something, then like one of the things I like that I think I did right, and I don't know if people really notice it, but is that I kept thinking about casualties of the drug scene in the 50s and how they would still be evident on the streets of Haight-Ashbury in the 70s, because, you know, it's not really that long a period of time. So I put a guy on the street when Chase first goes into the record store and leaves a note in the record store. I put a guy out on the street, and then way into the book, I have that guy as a young man, and he's getting MK'd, and they dump him at an outdoor theater, and you see he's watching The Day the Earth Stood Still. And so the first time you see him, he's an older guy, and he's saying Klaatu Barad Necto, and then you see him when he's a much younger man, and hopefully people kind of put two and two together and say, oh, that's the same guy in two different periods, you know.
Yeah. So you did quite a bit of that, right? Like you call them Easter eggs, where you just sort of have little either like historical things or just like hidden stuff in the artwork.
Right. There's loads, there's tons. I mean, practically every page in volume 1 has something that's like a nod to something else. So they're called Easter eggs. I call them Easter eggs, but I also call them chicken fat.
Oh, chicken
because
fat,
chicken fat, because this is something the old EC guys used to say. You know, you put the stuff in so that people can come back and sort of chew on the gristle. You know.
Sure.
Can I ask you something about those? Is that for the people who don't, or just reading it for the first time or looking at it for the first time and don't notice that? Is there any thought about creating some kind of document that points all those things out to people?
Yeah,
like
I think
so I know what to look for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I think, you know, probably the compilation volume, we could put something at the back, because an appendix, index, and you can see all these little things, because there's I've even got people moving backwards through the frames and stuff. Like, you know, you get a scene where somebody's actually moving the other way, and it's only going to be the keenest eye that's going to say, wait a minute, that guy's moving the wrong direction. Because if he was over here, if it's over here at the top of the page, he shouldn't be over here at the bottom of the page. You know, he's going backwards through the story, and that's something I wanted to pursue, and I might be able to fit more of that into volume 2. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's all sorts of little references, and then there's weird things that, you know, you've got a scene in the script where Seymour is sort of rescued from the agent by these. He's got these friends who are associates of his former love, who's this Chinese girl. I thought she was Korean, but in fact she's Chinese. But so she's got these friends in San Francisco, and they managed to spirit him away in one of the scenes. He's being pursued by a guy dressed like a telephone operator, and if you remember the scene. And I'm trying to remember if this is in the script or if I added this a little bit, but either way, whether you put it in or whether it's something I brought to he goes down a manhole. I don't know if that's in the script. It might be.
Yeah,
he goes down this.
He does. Yeah. And they take him underneath, like, and comes up, you know, some Chinese.
It comes up someone else.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't realize was that down in those internecine tunnels and stuff, I put people down there, and because it's like sort of under Chinatown. And then it was a couple of years later that I actually read that there was all sorts of rumors of these kind of tunnels in various places under Chinatown. Oh. And I don't know if you guys knew that, but then I started thinking.
Remember.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I can't remember if we knew that.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is that there's all sorts of, you know, stories whether or not that's true. But I did read later that in, I think, Bakersfield, somewhere in Bakersfield, they had a Chinatown, and now they were excavating one of the tunnels to sort of show it to the public or something like this. So anyway, instead of I have a scene down there where these guys look like they're gambling, but when you zoom in, they're not actually gambling. They're learning about they're learning economics. They're doing an economics class. So just little scenes like that. They suggest something, but when you zoom in, they're actually they're studying the wealth of nations or something like this.
Which is cool when you have a digital format, is you can really zoom into stuff, you know.
Zoom right in. Well, I zoom in because I've got a scene where Seymour runs through, and then you've got the guys in the background kind of looking around over their shoulder, and then I zoom into one of those guys. So the next panel is the guy just looking closely, and that's when you see that beyond all the smoke from the cigarettes, there's the wealth of nations on the blackboard, and they've got a teacher teaching them something about modern economics or something.
Yeah, interesting.
So just playing little things.
That's cool. I remember the first sort of pieces we saw of this. I remember looking at it on an iPad, and it was really cool because you could actually zoom in.
Yeah,
details were phenomenal.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So are there any plans? So there's going to be a volume 1 hardcover, a volume 2 hardcover, and then there'll be like the both of them together.
Right.
Like special edition or whatever. And then is there any plans for any kind of digital format that would be unique or different, or?
Yeah, we haven't talked about a digital, but I know that Clover do digital, so presumably that will roll out on digital Comixology or something like that. What they have talked about, and I don't know if I'm revealing sort of something here, but they talked about doing a special edition of Volume 1 that's got a blacklight cover. So instead of this cover that we have on this one, it's got that hardback, but it's got a paper cover over it, which will be blacklight, which was a popular kind of art form in the late 60s, early 70s. Mm-hmm. So I did that artwork, and again, so that's a special edition that will only go out with that, and I think that's going to be rolled out with Indiegogo. But so only the first 40 of those will have these drawings I've been talking about, and then only the ones produced on Indiegogo will have those paper covers. So so it's that's the only thing I know really about how that's going to roll out. But